and welcome to another episode of Life Lessons in Bon Jovi Songs. And we're at the third album, so we're doing them in chronological order. And we're at the third album, which is their biggie, Slippery When Wet. And we're at, I think, the most popular song on the album. The most well-known song is, of course, Living on a Prayer and You Give Love a Bad Name. But if you dig just a little bit deeper, then I think you will find like, oh yeah, this is like everybody's favorite song, and it is the favorite song from Richie Zambora. And I think I also read that it's the favorite song from Bon Jovi. And I will put in the link below to like a brilliant page. Ever since I found this website, I'm like, oh thank God, which have they have a it's called Two Stories High or Two Stories. I don't know what it's called. I just found it the last time for the last video, but I'll put it in below, so the link to the page for Wanted Dead or Alive, because for every single they have a whole page with clippings from interviews that refer to this song. So I really didn't have to put in that much work, because there was just this whole page with quotes from the band members about this song. And so that was really great. And yeah, it's everyone's favorite song. It's also because, well, first of all, it was really personal. Richie Zambora really describes Wanted Dead or Alive at one point really as a diary. So, I mean, it doesn't get much more personal than that. And so it is a song about life on the road. Well, everybody who has seen the video once will already know that. But it is what some of you may not know, that it's inspired by a Bob Seger song called Turn the Page, which they actually covered multiple times. So they were a big fan of Turn the Page, a song which has also been covered by Metallica, for instance, but it has been covered by a lot of people. And so I think that what I understood is that is also a song about being on the road, and this was their Turn the Page. And so the road they are referring to is actually from their first two tours. So the 1985 tour and the 1984 tour were basically, well, they were in the slipstream of their first two albums. They did have two albums under their belt already, but they were really just playing anywhere where they were welcome, and or where they were paid. It's probably a more accurate description. Where they were booked. And it really gave them the feeling of being these cowboys, these bank robbers that just bank robbers, I say, because they compare the giving a show in a city to like a heist, like a bank robbery. Like you come into town, you have your heist, you take the money, literally, you take the money, you sleep with all the women, and then you leave. And that was like their whole 1984 and 1985. So Slippery When Wet was their third album. It was their big breakthrough, but they already had 2 years on the road and 2 albums down. Is that the right word in this phrase? But they already had it. So it wasn't, they weren't new on the scene. They actually had had really lived that life of a rock and roll star. and they had really felt that loneliness, that cowboy loneliness of being on the road. And so that is what this song is about. And it has, just like the first song on this album, rock your life. Yeah, rock your life. No, let it rock. Which has an intro completely created by David Bryan. It's a song called Pink Flamingos, but it's not named separately on the album. Anyway, this intro for Let It Rock really was a very powerful intro to the album, and it was the work of David Bryan, the keyboard player. And this song, Wanted Dead or Alive, which is the fifth song and the final song for side A of the album, if you have vinyl or if you have a cassette. This song also really benefited from what David Bryan was able to bring to it, because he has a background in classical music. So he's like very much attuned to every song should be able to tell the story without the words. Like, you know, you should just immediately understand just from listening to the music what the song is about. And this one really had that super powerful cinematic quality to it, or David Bryan understood that it should have a cinematic quality to it, that it had like a story that should convey through music alone. So if you listen to Wanted Dead or Alive, it's about so much more than just the lyrics, and you can hear just the intro, just the first things that you hear. They're not as elaborate, and it's not a whole separate song like Pink Flamingos is, but it is crucial. It has these tiny little kind of like bells that you hear, and you hear the wind, you hear the sand blowing through the streets of, you know, like a small Midwest town. So it's like yeah, David Bryan, the keyboard prayer. Well, I know why he is the keyboard prayer. Keyboard player also really helped bring this song to life. The bare bones of this song, however, were one of many that were created in the basement of Richie's parents. In my last video I said, oh, was it Richie's parents or Richie's mother? I don't know. The interview that I read about this song, he really refers to it as the house he grew up in, the house of my parents and the basement there. So let's just go with, it was the house of his parents. And so he grew up there, and in his childhood he already went down to that basement and to just rehearse or play or be a musician, even when he didn't even have the tools to be one, even when he didn't play any instrument. That basement was like his it had something magical when you read about it. You know, it's like he knew what he wanted to become. It was like he was just a child, but it was like his vision board. It was his cave, but I think more than a cave, it was his, I don't know, altar, or his yeah, it was a very it was a place of power and a potential, that basement. And it really was just a basement in the most basic sense of the word. There was a laundry machine and the dryer, and there was the laundry hang on the lines in the basement. It was everything that we suspect a basement would be. So it was nothing fancy, But to that little boy, or to that boy, it was everything. It was what he needed, a place to center himself and a place to dream. And in 1986, that is where John Bon Jovi would go in the afternoon. So John Bon Jovi describes it as it was a sunny day and I rang the bell at like 1 p.m. and I got Richie out of bed, or he had to come out of bed. It wasn't up yet. So and that afternoon, between 1 p.m. and before dinner, that's what he says. So that's like 6 p.m., 7 p.m. They had written 2 songs, and one of them was Wanted Dead or Alive. So, and that's like really great. It took 2-3 songs an hour. So it was very easy for them to write. But it was in that basement that they did this. And ultimately, when they were at the studio in order to record the song, that's when they realized, like, we're not nailing it. We're not like doing it right. Something is missing. And that is when their producer, Bruce Fairbairn, said, get a couple of, a few bottles of wine here. Maybe you should have a few bottles of wine and then try again. And they did. And they just nailed it. So that's how the story goes, how they really nailed it. They needed to loosen up in order to kind of like unlock their brilliance and really get it down on the record. So another important aspect, or it's kind of like 2, but they're a little bit related from this song, is that it was their goal to really push acoustic guitar back into rock and roll, back into radio play, back into mainstream. At the time, there were not a lot of songs, especially not rock songs, that had acoustic guitar. And then they took it really up a notch because Richie Sambora started playing the double neck guitar. So that is 2 times 6 strings, and even a triple neck guitar. So that's with 3 necks, which was custom built for him. So the double neck guitar really enters here at Wanted Dead or Alive as the first time it was featured. And so that's a really important aspect to Wanted Dead or Alive, that it was when Richie Sambora really started bringing the double neck guitar into his play, and therefore in the spotlight. And it was a double neck acoustic guitar that he had for this one. I don't know if that was also custom made or that was but it was the 12 string acoustic guitar. So that is what I have for you. That's what I have for you. I don't think I have any other things here that I really need to I think I pretty much have it all. Yeah, I have it. So that was Wanted Dead or Alive. I think the strongest song in Bon Jovi history, and I know that like in the 80s I played this song so often, and so it is in a way my favorite song. Is just that because it's like everybody's favorite song. I often say that Lay Your Hands on Me from the New Jersey album is my favorite song. But it's also more kind of like, we can't all have Wanted Dead or Alive be our favorite song. Some people have to have a different favorite song. So it's, but I think technically Wanted Dead or Alive is because it was so personal and meaningful to the band members. That is aside from the the music and the layeredness of the music. Um, that is what also makes it the favorite song of people, because we just feel when something is like super genuine to the artist who created it, and meaningful to the artist that created it. Whereas Lay Your Hands on Me is like, I think it's the only track from New Jersey, so that's like what I have said, like, oh yeah, that's gonna be my favorite song, is the only track from the New Jersey album that was like completely fabricated in the studio. So I think that really says something about me, like, oh, I have that like fake track, that fake track that was just created in the studio because they needed a really strong opener for both the album as well as for on stage, on tour. So it was completely made up. Like, Lay Your Hands on Me from the New Jersey album is like the opposite of this song of Wanted Dead or Alive, where Wanted Dead or Alive is really like, it had an urgency to for them. It had, it really, it was like they had been carrying this ever since they had been on those buses in 1984, and in particular 1985, going from town to town, and they were just holding on to all this. Yeah, angst, is that the right word in this context? But they had so many unprocessed feelings about that time. And John said it was really when he was on those buses where he really realized, wow, we're like these cowboys. Like he said, I was feeling so miserable, and I didn't know why, because he said he thought all my dreams are coming true. Why am I not feeling great right now? And yeah, he just really saw, we're not grounded anywhere. We're just going from town to town. And so they were carrying all that, and in 1986 they've really managed to pour or all that experience and all those unprocessed emotions into this song. So it's like, it's super meaningful, and I think that we all picked that up, and that's why most people will, including me, will intuitively recognize Wanted Dead or Alive as the Bon Jovi song. That really, yeah, in many ways holds the most value to and the most meaning to all of us. So yeah, that was it. I will see you in the next video for life lessons in Bon Jovi songs, and that will be song number 1 from side B, song 6 on the CD if you're listening to that, and that is the song Raise Your Hands. So I'll see you next time for Raise Your Hands. Bye.